Arizona basketball shows massive flaws against West Virginia, and this does not seem to be something that is going to be really corrected. And I'm not sure that this is something that is really a priority. We will talk about that and more.
You are Locked On Wildcats, your daily podcast on the Arizona Wildcats. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats and making this your first listen of the day. I am your host, Mike Luke. All right, now we got a lot to get to this show. First, we're going to talk about I think it's fair at this point to have some real concerns about this basketball team and in particular Tommy Lloyd. I like Tommy Lloyd a great deal. I've been very clear about that. I think Tommy Lloyd is a good coach. But there are some things at this point that I think it's just hard to really look past. And the first thing we're going to talk about here is effort. Watching this team, they don't try hard. They don't play hard, and I think that kind of factors into a little bit of their perimeter defense. And I'll use Trey Townsend for an example. Trey Townsend had a good scoring game, but you watch Trey Townsend, when it comes to rebounding the basketball, he just stands there. He doesn't box out, and he gets 4 rebounds per game. That is just totally unacceptable. And again, it doesn't really seem like the coaching staff is really that interested in really correcting that. I could be wrong on that, but it just, that to me is a total effort issue. And watching it, it just continues to be that way. They also don't care about defending the three-point shot. We're going to get into the offense here in a second, but I'll use a perfect example. With Tommy Lloyd, the thing about Tommy Lloyd that I think it's fair to say at this point is he doesn't care about defending the three-point shot. And because even when teams don't make a great percentage per se, they still are it's mainly just because they're missing wide open shots. And you saw that against West Virginia. The biggest problem that I think that you have with this team at Arizona was basically encapsulated by DeVries from West Virginia. You allowed him to get going early and gave him some wide open shots, and not only give him some wide open shots, these shots didn't even hit the ball. These shots barely even hit the net. And then, like Charles Barkley always says, by that point, the house is on fire. There's nothing you can do about that. And this happened against Oklahoma as well. Basically, with Arizona cuts the lead to 1, and then, lo and behold, you go ahead and you give up 4 straight wide open threes to Oklahoma. And at some point, this is on Tommy Lloyd. Again, I like Tommy Lloyd. I hope he's here for a long time. But there are some real questions there about the toughness and the three-point defense, and the fact that he always goes under the screen makes absolutely no sense to me. Basically, he's hoping that you miss shots, and basically what happens is against Arizona, they end up making them. You might miss them for a while, but after a while, they are going to start going in, and that is a massive problem when it comes to Tommy Lloyd. So that's something that he clearly needs to correct, because it's just not good enough. And again, the effort is just subpar. Now, I will give him some credit. He disciplined KJ Lewis, who needed. I like KJ Lewis as well, but KJ Lewis, 2 stupid technical fouls that he's gotten in the last 4 games. Those can't happen. Not only can those not happen, you have to back away from those and say, all right, what are we doing here? And because, again, that's just a total lack of discipline. So with KJ Lewis, I give him credit on that. But there's also been player regression or just kind of staying the same, and that's KJ Lewis. I like KJ Lewis, but at the same time, it doesn't look like he's got much better. He's not really. I mean, he's turning the ball over. When he puts the ball down, it gets stripped from him. It goes away. And that's kind of the case that is with a lot of this team. This team lost this game because of turnovers. Trey Townsend turns the ball over all the time. Henry, I don't know why Henry is ever putting the ball on the ground, but he's not good enough at it as well. And then Trey Townsend again turns it over as well. This was a very, very bad performance. I don't know what other way to put it. This was a very, very bad performance by Arizona. And again, I get that you look at it and you're like, oh, they only made 35% of their threes. The problem, though, is that you're just begging teams to miss. And so it's kind of fool's gold. You look at it and you're like, all right, well, they're just missing wide open shots. Sooner or later, those shots are going to go in. As far as and like I said, the turnovers, we're going to get to the offense here in just a second. But with the turnovers are just unacceptable. They're lazy, and there are multiple times this game where you just gave up wide open dunks going down the court, and it didn't even really look like you were playing. And that is that's an issue. And we're going to find out what exactly this team is made of when it comes to that. So we will find that one out. Now, but first, want to talk about game time here for a second. Game time. All right, now, hold on just a second. Where is that? All right, game time. I know a lot of people that have used Gametime, and not only have they used Gametime, they use it and they like it. The great thing about Gametime is that it's easy as well. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Again, terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege. Download Gametime. What time is it? Gametime. Ooh. Now, with Gametime too, you can get into an Arizona ASU game, you can get into a concert, you can get into a lot of different things with Gametime. That is what makes Gametime so great. Again, everybody is using it because it is a great opportunity to be able to get in there. So again, check it out, Gametime. Another one of these ones, you're going to thank me later at some point. Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats and making this your first listen of the day. I am your host, Mike Luke. All right, now let's talk a little bit about where Arizona is let's talk a little bit now about where Arizona is offensively. It's not good. Listen, I like Tommy Lloyd because one of the things that Tommy Lloyd did that Sean Miller never did is that Tommy Lloyd wants to run. But the problem, though, also, too, is that in the half court, it's just kind of stagnant. Doesn't ever really seem to be a real plan. I know that he gives his players a lot of free reign, and I do like that aspect a great deal about him. But it's also kind of a double-edged sword, though, because you got guys that just really, I think it's fair to say, just aren't quite good enough. Again, I was really hoping that KJ was going to make a jump. I thought KJ was going to make a jump. He hasn't. One good thing though, Caleb Love seems to be snapping out of it. Love what Caleb Love is doing. He is he's really, like I said, he's really, really good. And not only is he really, really good, he's a coach that, or a player that, I watch him and I'm like, okay, this is really, really good stuff. I think that the one thing that we do need to talk about it is where is he and where is this team then when it comes to Caleb Love? I think he's kind of back. I think he's kind of got back on track to a certain extent. And that's good. That's really good. But again, the other players just aren't there. One thing about it is Mo Krivas, some of these other guys, the big man, just not good enough. Mo Krivas, not good enough. Henry, not good enough. Not only that, his international scouting has just been atrocious. And not only that, where are we though with that? Because he was. This was supposed to be a team that this was supposed to be by this time, but again, these guys just aren't very good. You've got Philly B, wasn't good enough. Conrad, not good enough. Henry Vasar, meh. Mount Krivas, super limited. Has some skill, but super limited. Dama Ball and Paulius Morauskas, they do good things, but they're not here, so it doesn't really matter. That's kind of where I'm at with that. So he's got to figure out how he's going to really build this roster, and he's got to get guys that can score the basketball. Again, people are beating up Caleb Love. I don't really have a problem with how he played. And Jaden Bradley, by and large, fine with him as well. I think those guys you can win with. But the other dude's just not good enough. The big men up front are stiffs. And Townsend's just limited. I didn't see Townsend being the subpar rebounder that he is, and I think that's something that, and I think that's something that you're just going to have to live with because he doesn't box out, they don't try. But offensively, they're going to have games where they're just not putting the ball in the bucket, and defensively, the problem is they're not good enough to be able to make up for that. And that's where it's at. Now, again, I like Tommy Lloyd, but Tommy Lloyd, it also feels like he's kind of at a crossroads because this roster at this point looks really, really flawed. And what is going to be his next step? Is his next step going to be that he is going to he's going to revamp some things? I don't know, but he's got to get better players first. The one thing he's got to stop doing is recruiting crummy international players. That's just wasted roster space. It just is what it is. And then, with some of these other guys, got to start getting some NBA players. I mean, Carter Bryant, you need more Carter Bryants. Again, Carter Bryant isn't necessarily there yet. We all know that. But Carter Bryant also has a lot of talent. You can see that. He's a guy that's probably got an NBA future. Now, we're going to talk about kind of that roster construction and what goes on coming forward. But first, FanDuel. Check it out. FanDuel.com. The great thing about FanDuel is this. If you're a new customer, you can put down $5 and you can get $150 in free plays. It is that simple. That easy. You've got to be a new customer and you got to be able to hit. If you hit on those, then everything is good. At FanDuel.com, everything is really, really good to go. And like I said, you can bet on college sports, you can bet on pro sports, you can bet on a plethora of different things. Check it out, though, at FanDuel. With FanDuel, too, you can bet before the game, bet during the game, or you can bet futures. Check it out, again, at FanDuel.com. Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats and making this your first listen of the day. I am your host, Mike Luke. All right, now let's talk a little bit then about what he's got to do. He's got to get better players, and not only does he got to get better, not only does he have to get better players, he's got to get players that fit. The one thing that I was a little bit surprised by is that this team is also just kind of soft, and it's not a super high basketball IQ team. Those are obviously massive drawbacks. Those aren't good. But watching them, you just can kind of also tell too that this team probably just isn't good enough. And there's been a lot of missy evals. Not only has there been now literally has there not only been a lot of missy evals. I watched this team and I just think that this isn't a. I just don't think that this is a squad that necessarily really, follows where Tommy Lloyd goes with this. And I think that's a problem, is that I just don't know that Lloyd is going to be the one that is going to hold these players accountable. And because, again, so a lot of this, too, is effort. With Trey Townsend, again, I'm going to keep bringing up Trey Townsend. He doesn't box out, and he doesn't make an effort to box out. So at what point do you say, what are you doing here? Are we just going to keep doing this pretty much all season? It's kind of like the Kylan Boswell thing from last year, that Kylan Boswell just wasn't that good, but no matter what, Tommy Lloyd was always going to play him. And I think there's some of that with him that I don't think that people really understand that one. And I think that's what's kind of frustrating about all of this, is that there's just not a ton of accountability. Now, listen, it's early. Lloyd is only in his fourth year when it comes to coaching, being a head coach. He's got a lot of time to figure things out, but he's also got to figure this one out, and he's got to kind of figure it out quick, because these are some of the same things that have been a problem. But again, the three-point defense to me is something that I'm still going to harp on. DeVries, you cannot allow him to continue to get open threes. And again, the rest of the team, but they were just missing open shots. With DeVries, you're letting him walk right into threes, and it's kind of like with Oklahoma, the game's over at some point. So you got to figure that one out. So not good, obviously, for Arizona. But We got the Territorial Cup coming up tomorrow, which means we are going to talk Arizona Arizona State. Hopefully we're breaking down a post-game win for the Wildcats. That would be very nice to send ASU off in a flurry of bad negativity. That would be very, very enjoyable to be able to sit here and talk about. But as always, very, very much appreciate you all making Locked On Wildcats your first listen of the day. I'm your host, Mike Luke. Bear down, back the A, and we'll be back with you tomorrow.